Greetings, urban farmers, gardeners, and healthy food visionaries. Greg Peterson here, and welcome to the 274th episode of the Urban Farm Podcast, where 3 days a week we work together educating and inspiring you to become part of your food revolution. Healthy food is something everybody wants, delicious and nutritious, and right outside your own door is even better. Just text garden to 44222 or visit iwanttogarden.com and you will receive our free webinar about the 7 key factors you need to know to grow your own food. Today on our podcast, we have someone who is very active in supporting her local food system. We're talking to Deb Kolaras about small farming and local economies. Trading in her digital marketing agency in Boulder, Colorado for a small farm in rural Virginia, Deb and her husband set out to expand their backyard hobby farming into a slightly larger and more sustainable homestead. While restoring the 1907 farmhouse, they're raising chickens and goats and selling food products on their roadside honor farm stand. Other local micro farms also sell products and goods in Deb's farm stand, and she is working to help improve her local micro economy by networking and supporting small farmers and producers in her county. Her background is in business, but she's always had a passion for making, building, repurposing, and then harvesting the goods from those labors. Welcome to the show today, Deb.
Hi, it's good to be here.
So I shared a bit about you. Can you fill in the blanks for us and share more about the path you took to get where you're at today?
Well, coming from Boulder, Colorado out here, I had already had some interest in farming, and we had already started doing some things in Boulder before we left, and we were just kind of running out of room there. But I became interested in farming overall when I was living in Nebraska during college, and I really was interested in the small town aspect and the kindness of the people that live there, and it just really resonated with me. And so I became really intrigued with that whole lifestyle. And there wasn't a lot of things I could do with it at that time because I was in college. So I did really take an interest in making things though, and trying to just do stuff like make soap and these kinds of things. And I remember getting this catalog I got from the body shop out there, and this is decades ago, and they were just kind of starting up in the States. And I just remember getting that catalog and thinking, my God, look at the cool stuff they have in here, and why can't we, do this stuff here? And it really kind of intrigued me. And so I had to kind of table it, though. I didn't have enough resources to do anything with that, and I just kind of let it percolate. And so, kept that interest in my head, and then just continued to pursue business. That's what my background is in business, and so. Pursued marketing and whatever, and so started an agency and still had that whole thing in my back of my head, but couldn't do anything with it really because having a marketing agency kind of takes over your life. And so,
right.
But I did pursue it a little bit. I was coordinating the farmers market that's in Louisville, Colorado, and started working with some vendors there and trying to help people get seen. Some of these vendors were super small and paled in comparison in size of other ones. And obviously that market's a lot smaller than the farmers market that goes on in Boulder. And so it was pretty tough on them, though. You could see there's this gap. And the smaller places have to pay that same fee,
right? And
they have to take a chunk out of their sales, and they got to pay for that space and whatever every week. And you'd see them sometimes leave underwater. They lost money that day being there,
right? Because
they couldn't compete with these bigger places. And so that just kind of has kind of been in my head. And so when we got here, it was the next step of thinking, how could we coordinate with other small farms and small producers who don't have maybe because you clearly hear that car out on my road.
Yeah.
They don't have the visibility sometimes, and they also sometimes don't know how to reach out.
Right.
And so that's what I'm hoping to do, is take some of my background in marketing and digital marketing and kind of help some other businesses get more business for themselves, but also, we get business at the same time. So
nice. So just so I get it clear, when you were living in Colorado, you were coordinating with some of the farmers markets to kind of help bring in vendors. And then,
right. I was helping with the Louisville farmers market. So it was just that one there.
And then when you landed in Virginia, are you in Virginia?
Yes.
Yeah, when you landed in Virginia, you started your own farm stand, and that's what we're hearing in the background. At least that's what I made up. And so those are people coming up to your farm stand and buying something and then going away, right?
Right. So we're on a very busy. It's called Highway 33, so for Virginia, it's a very busy highway. And so even though our farmhouse is set back on the property, there's a great deal of traffic that goes by here. And so we've only been here in August. It'll only be a year that we've been here. So we didn't have enough time to get up our huge garden and all the other things we wanted to do. So we started with our little, just a little honor farm stand out there to start with. And we've been coordinating with some local farms in the area who are not visible. They're not on a busy road like this. They don't have that traffic. And so what we do is say, well, how much do you sell your stuff for? And they say, well, we sell it for this. And it's like, okay, well, we'll buy it from you. And then we're going to get it out here on this stand. And so that way you guys have, move some product.
Nice.
So, yeah, so it's kind of cool. Everybody wins because they get to move some of the stuff that they're working so hard to grow and produce, and we offer a bigger variety, and then people just come up and get their stuff, and then they leave their money and they leave.
And have you found that people have been pretty good about leaving money behind?
That's a good question, and people ask that a lot, wondering if people are honorable enough to leave money in the honor box. And most everyone has been very good. There have been exceptions where people have left less than they were supposed to leave, and that's I look at it this way: if they do that, they probably need it more than I need that money.
Yeah. Oh, bless you for that. Wow. Cool. That sounds exciting. How many farmers are you kind of working with at your honor stand?
Right now, just 4. So I expect to grow that because we actually have to build a bigger stand.
Oh, nice.
So I don't want to, until we build the stand to a bigger size and have bigger doors on it and such. We don't want to have this the stand we've got that is so small that it's blown up and the stuff is not displayed nicely and stuff. So we just got some big lodge poles last weekend. So we're going to try to build a farm stand that's kind of in keeping with some of the structures that were built around the time this house was built.
Nice.
This place was built. So
when was it built? I think I said it in your bio.
1907.
1907. Wow. 110-year-old building you're living in.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We feel like we're stewards for this house, so we're trying to undo some of the things that were done to it that were questionable decisions, and trying to honor the way the house was built and the era it was built in. So we're restoring some stuff, and it's
Yeah. So tell me about your journey. So you came from Colorado, you ended up in Virginia, and when we talked in our pre-conversation, you mentioned that this is just a step in your journey. Tell me about that journey. Where are you going?
Well, I think we see ourselves on a bigger farm, a bigger plot of land, because this place is actually only 1.5 acres, and we fell in love with the house itself and kind of the area. It sits in the middle of Virginia wine country, so it's a really neat place. But we would prefer to have a place maybe that had more. We've got a lot of nut trees, like huge old 100-year-old nut trees and pecan trees and all that. But we have no orchard or anything like that. And we would really like to have some apples and some of those kinds of things, and maybe more horse pasture because we want a little bit more land that way. And it will also give us more options with farming, so that we can do experiment with some other crops. And I'd like to get into growing foraging food for our animals, and I'd like to just try to grow as much as we can for them, so that we don't have to rely on buying feed and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things that I've been working on here at the Urban Farm. We have about 15 hens out back, and I'm working on growing some of the forage for them or more, so we don't have to buy as much feed.
Right. Well, they're healthier for it too. Our birds, we have 27 birds, and they run this entire property. They're everywhere, even though we've got a nice fenced-in area for them. They hop the fence, and they're all off in the the weeds and whatever. And they're the grains and stuff that we feed them is minimal compared to some people who have them penned up all the time.
Right.
Our chickens are fortunate because they're eating bugs all day long and, chasing newts and
Yeah.
so.
Well, and I've even seen our hens chase mice before. So
Yeah, that's a good kill too.
yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. So you went to Virginia to run a small farm. What are some of the key ways that you make your small farm manageable?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think that having systems and setting up systems is probably key to running something like this. It's when we first got here, and I guess I can start from when we first arrived here, there was no fence around this place. We didn't have any way to contain the chickens, and we knew there's wildlife. There's coyotes and fox and raccoons, the typical predators.
Right.
And so we knew we needed something to contain them. And so that, I think you have to look at things in kind of phases and then just set up systems for it. Otherwise, it's unmanageable. So I think our first thing was getting a containment area for them to protect them, and then having systems for feeding them and for watering. And this whole thing goes throughout the whole morning. Every morning we have a goat that's in milk. And so we have to milk her every morning.
All right. Yeah.
And the bucks, everybody gets fed. So it's a matter of systems, setting these things up to where you're not running all over the place, doing 100 things and just it feels disorganized because because that can become overwhelming and not make it very joyful.
Yeah.
So I think it's key to have even calendar things if you have to, mapping your week out. Like we have to replenish certain things. Our goats are kind of a little bit bratty. They like alfalfa. They're not really fond of orchard grass or some other types of hay.
Right.
So we really have to plan when we get that. So, putting that on a calendar to say, at this time we go up to this this town that's north of us to go get this particular hay for them. And these days are the days we get, we go to get grains or whatever. But systems, I think, are just imperative. And we produce things from the milk.
Oh, right.
So
you got to have systems in place for that too.
Right. So if I don't keep track of that and say, okay, today is a cheese day. I have to make cheese today. This day I'm making yogurt. I've got to churn that cheese. I've got to, all these things that play into keeping it all kind of moving.
Right. Yeah. As you're sharing this, Heidi, my sweetheart Heidi, we have chickens out back, and they're basically her chickens. I care for them some, but she cares for them. But she has a system, and I didn't realize that until you just you talked about that. She goes out every morning, especially this time of year. It's 100 and it'll be 110 degrees outside, so they need to put ice in their water. And make sure they have fresh water every morning, make sure it's cool, and about midday we change that out. So we have some of those systems in place, and it makes it a whole lot easier.
Oh yeah, it feels like it's once you kind of have it running, it seems seamless in a way.
Right.
But when something goes wrong, and that's where your systems really pay off for you, and you have to see if they're really running right, as if something kind of goes sideways. And we have, like we had an incident with a chicken that got really sick a few weeks ago. Well, I don't know if your Heidi is like we are, but if the chicken gets sick, the chicken is in the house. And so the chicken comes in, we've got a crate, and we're caring for that chicken, pretty much around the clock. And so it can throw off some of your stuff, but if your system works well, then, not everything is too upset. There's just this one additional thing you're having to handle too.
Yeah.
So
having those systems in place are for taking care of the animals. You also mentioned for managing the surplus. And when you have, for me, a month ago, it was surplus apples. I had dozens of pounds and maybe even hundreds of pounds of apples that I had to make applesauce out of and apple chips out of and, so on and so on. But the other piece, we're going on vacation here soon, and we have to have somebody stay here at the house. So we have to have those systems in place for them as well.
Exactly.
So what do you do when you go on vacation?
Well, we haven't gone on vacation yet. So what happens right now is my husband still works for the company that he worked for in Boulder, and so he travels back there. So I'm usually relegated to stay here and take care of everybody. But we have a trip that's on our calendar in August. And so we have a farm animal sitter that's supposed to come in and take care of everything. So she won't need to stay here at the house because our dog is going to go to my in-laws' house or with us, one or the other. And there's no real need to stay here. It's, she can come back and forth. She lives really close.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we have somebody in the area that we can get to come and do this, but it'll be the first time we've taken off for more than like overnight.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So initially before we got the goats, that's kind of the turning point. The chickens were much easier.
Yep.
The chickens, It's like, they kind of round themselves up at night and get into the pen, and then you shut it and everybody's good.
Yeah.
But the goats are at another level of complexity because we have to milk a goat every morning.
Right.
And so if you don't milk her, well, she becomes engorged and all the other fun stuff that comes with that. So
right.
we definitely this will be a new experience having somebody for a week. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I can't wait.
Farm sitting is a good business out there for all of the listeners out there with younger people in your family. Think about setting up a farm sitting business. It's there's a couple people here in Phoenix that we work with, and it's really important.
Oh, it's vital. And if you have somebody who's competent and knows how to handle even a crisis situation with with an animal, with a chicken or with a goat, it's really important. Those are good skills. It's definitely different than house sitting or watching someone's cat or dog.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and right now here, in Phoenix, like I said, it's 110 degrees during the day. So we have to, the water needs to get changed out on the chickens twice a day. So, just little things like that. So you said when you moved from Colorado, you had animals there. Did you bring your animals with you?
We brought most of our chickens with us. So yes, they made the trek. We had to take them to a vet. Animals, as you probably know, farm animals, you can't just get in the car and take them someplace across state lines and stuff. They have to be tested and stuff for diseases. So we had our flock tested and decided on which ones we were leaving and which ones were coming with us. And we were really fortunate. The person that bought our house wanted our goats and wanted some of our chickens.
Oh, nice.
So we left them there and then took the other part of our flock with us and brought them here. And so I think they fared better on the trip than we did. They were really, really good. They did great on the travel. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, cool. And you just packed them in cages and drove them?
Yeah, so they were in a dog crate, so there was a lot of room in there. And we put, bedding and put a couple perches in there. And it was the summer when we were moving, so it was hot. We just kept giving them treats, and you wouldn't have known that they're very sweet animals. And I think to their credit, they're a little bit dumb too, so they probably didn't understand what was going on. But they were, they didn't bat an eye when we got them here. They just resumed being chickens when they got here. Nice. And they laid eggs on the trip.
Oh wow, cool. Well, yeah. Wow. Excellent. And how many did you bring?
We brought half the flock, so we brought four of us, four of those chickens with us.
Yeah. Nice.
And left the others there. So so not brimming, like we have now, but.
Right. So why did you decide to sell other people's products at your farm stand?
Mainly because I can't produce all of that stuff, and I don't really want to. I think that there are things I just don't want to get in the business of making everything or growing everything. And so it's nice to be able to have other people in the area that have stuff. I started it primarily, initially at least, was I have a pretty good sized flock, but I was going through a lot of eggs. And so I was selling out. And there were days where I would not have any eggs, and I would sit in my window in my office upstairs and look out my window at my little box out there, my honor box, and see people drive up and then have to leave because they didn't get any eggs. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like in business, that's a single point of failure. And so I was very concerned about that. And so I started looking around for somebody who had the same kind of chicken setup I do, where they let their chickens pasture, free range, and, feed them well and care for them or whatever. And so I came into contact with a lady not far from me. And so if I run low on stock, I'm able to get some from her and have plenty to sell. So that's kind of what started it here. And then it's easy enough for, other people who make certain things or grow certain vegetables. I've got one of the other farmers has got cucumbers and stuff that are varieties I don't have.
Right.
And so it's nice to be able to get some from him and put those out there. So, yeah.
Nice.
The other thing I'm thinking of long term is you had mentioned the apples and how you had such a surplus of them. And I know that that's going to come to pass at some point here. Our tomatoes are going to blow up and we're going to have so many. And I can only produce so many things with them and also sell so many. Yeah. And what I want to do is something similar to, you've heard of like Ample Harvest and Farm to Fork and those kinds of initiatives. Yeah. So I'd love to be able to do that here because it's not really going on right here in my community. But I'd like to see it happen where people in this area can donate some of that to, pantries that are in the area. Food, I think it's a good way to get those people food and nutrition that they might not come in contact with ordinarily.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than a lot of the packaged stuff that are normally in food pantries. Right. There's actually a term for that. They're called foodstuffs. It's
right.
Yeah, I realized that, or I discovered that recently on a podcast with a nutritionist. And foodstuffs is a item that resembles food, basically. Yeah, exactly.
Resembles, but is not food.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go.
Right.
So I'm going to shift on you, and I'd like for you to talk about a time you failed, how you overcame that failure, and what you might have learned from it.
This is a silly failure, and because I saw this kind of question before, and it's garlic. I can't grow garlic. I keep failing at growing it. I've failed every place I've lived. I have not been able to successfully grow garlic. And even here, I thought I was on track. I had it all planned out and everything, and it just didn't work out for me. But I continue to just keep learning. And I'm doing the same thing with other crops. So I'm kind of trying to move past thinking I can't grow garlic, and maybe I'll find some farmer who does, so then I can sell it at the farm stand.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But I kind of look at it as an opportunity to just kind of move past it and look at the other crops that I do have a lot of success with, because I had the same kind of failures with lavender over the years. But here I've actually been able to grow lavender. So I feel like I've just got to get a little bit more in tune with the plants themselves and figure out what I may have done wrong, but go ahead and just learn a little bit more,
right?
and just keep moving on. But it's the same thing with other crops. I think. You don't have a great success with them. I feel like it. Oh my God, what did I do? It didn't work. They're all dead. But I think you just move on. So.
Right. Yeah, and the thing there is, I tell people this all the time. I've killed more plants than you probably ever will. I've been gardening for over 40 years. Not on purpose, but that's how we learn. That's how we learn.
Right.
Don't be afraid if you put in a basil plant or a garlic and it doesn't work. Try something different next time and grow it differently. And I would encourage you to continue trying to grow garlic.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it another shot.
So what do you consider your biggest success?
I feel like my successes are other people's successes. I've got the opportunity to mentor people over the years, and so it's really been rewarding. And this is in business, not really in farming, but it's been really so fulfilling to see other people that you mentor take off with their businesses or their plans and their ideas. And so those successes are things that I've got to enjoy over the last few years for sure. And so I guess that success for me is success for someone else, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What drives you?
I'm driven by learning. I think that I've always been thirsty for knowledge and trying to figure things out and trying to make or build or produce or figure out. And I think that's what drives me. I like to be able to do those things, make my life better, make the lives of other people around me better. And so, that's kind of what keeps me moving. I definitely follow after my dad. I'm just a producer. I have to be doing things. I can't be idle. I I don't get bored. I don't really know when people say that, it makes me a little sad.
Yeah,
because
that's
it's like,
amazing.
who has time to be bored?
All right, if you're bored, go do something about it.
Right. There's so many things. Like,
Right.
I just, I really churn through my day, and then I look at, like right now it's 4 here. I'm like, oh my God, it's 4, and I got a lot done today, but I feel like there's all this other stuff I still want to get done, you know? So.
Yeah, I have that problem. I have a to-do list that I'll never get done in my life, and I add to it every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could recommend one book for our listeners, what would it be and why?
I really am a fan of Todd Henry, and so his latest book out is called Die Empty, and I would recommend that book because it's sort of that keep going. Don't let hurdles or your own self-doubt or the self-doubt of other people or whatever step in your way. You just work at, keep doing your thing, and the Die Empty thing is not like be the best or anything. It's just keep moving your feet, keep moving towards your ideas, keep moving towards your goals. And yeah, it's a great book. Yeah. He's a terrific author.
It's called Die Empty?
Uh-huh.
Wow. Yeah, I see it here on Amazon. Unleash your best work every day. Wow, that sounds cool.
Yeah, he's super cool. He's got a really great podcast too.
Oh, does he? Oh, very good. Do you know the name of it?
It's the Accidental Creative.
Oh, nice. So Todd Henry and the Accidental Creative. What one final piece of advice do you have for our listeners?
God, be passionate. Live passionately. I think that we just we're always conforming to things, and my friends are kind of baffled a little bit about what I'm doing right now, but most of them I think are pretty excited, and I think they think that, oh my God, that's crazy. You just like sold your agency and moved out there and you're doing all this stuff. And I think it scares people sometimes to take risks like this.
Yeah.
But I think if you're passionate about the things that you want to do, then everything else follows. You don't have to be making $1 million, a day or anything like that. If you're enjoying what you do and you're passionate about it, it's such a joyful life,
Yeah. Amen to that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Deb.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It was really a treat.
Oh, it was wonderful to hear from you. So how can our listeners get a hold of you?
They can go to the Hop and Hen website, it's hopandhen.com, or they can get a hold of me on Instagram because that's really where I put all my pictures and ideas and stuff up. So my handle is the Kolaras, so TheKolaras.
Perfect. You can also find show notes from today's podcast at urbanfarm.org/hop-and-hen. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us on the Urban Farm Podcast. Healthy food is something everybody wants, delicious and nutritious, and right outside your own door is even better. Just text GARDEN to 44222 or visit iwanttogarden.com and you will receive our free webinar about the 7 key factors you need to know to grow your own food.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.